Good morning. Welcome today to New York Buddhist Church's Sunday service, broadcast live from our Hondo Worship Hall. We extend our greetings to all of our Sangha members and friends. We are happy that you are able to join today's service from home. Please listen attentively and respectfully, and let the New York Buddhist Church Hondo come to you as we chant together, as we chant with one voice. We will begin today's service with the Vandana and Tisarana, the vow of taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Following this, we will have the chanting of the Sutra Junirai, or the 12 verses in praise of AMIDA Buddha, with Nembutsu and Ekoku merit transfer. Please join your hands together in Gassho when we chant O Nembutsu. You may also wish to offer incense during the chanting of Sutra. After Sutra, Reverend Earl will read the Threefold Refuge, and then Gobunsho, Shinjin Gyaku Toku no Sho, the chapter on attainment of Shinjin, following by the reading of the Threefold Refuge before Shinjin Gyaku Toku. Then you can follow in the text below. After that, Reverend Earl Ikeda will then give today's Dharma message. To end service, we will sing Nembutsu together. Namu, AMIDA Butsu.
Amo For this morning's reading, I've chosen the Threefold Refuge, often referred to as Rai-Sammo in Japanese. Please allow me to do the Japanese first, and then I'll follow with the English translation. Rai-Sammo. 隣人おけがたし今すれに行く仏法聞きがたし今すれに聞くこのみ根性に向かって土星寸場さらにいずれの章に向かってかこのみをどせ大衆者ともに指針に参謀に帰依し立て祀るべし自ら仏に帰依し立て祀るまさに願わくば主情とともに大道を体現して無常意を降参自ら法に帰依し立て祀るまさに願わくは主情とともに深く胸像に入れて趣味のごとくなら 自らそうに帰依し立て祀る。まさに願わくば主情とともに、大衆を通りして一切無限なら、無常人事未妙の方は百千万号にも愛おうことかたし、割間検問し十字すこてたり、願わくは如来の真実義を下し立て祀らん。The Threefold Refuge. Difficult it is to receive a human form. Now we are living it. Difficult it is to hear the Dharma of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in this present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us, with sincerity and true reverence, take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together with all sentient beings, awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together with all sentient beings, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming one, the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together with all sentient beings, become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we have the privilege to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namu, AMIDA-SEN-RYŌ-ZOKU-SON. This morning's reading or translation is attributed to Reverend Masao Kodani of the Shinjin Buddhist Temple. Today's Gobunsho is Shinjin Gyaku Toku, how one can attain Shinjin or true entrusting. Shinjin Gyaku Toku Suというは第18の願の心うるなり。この願の心というは南無阿弥陀仏の姿を心うるなり。このゆえに名もと奇妙する一年のところに本願にこの心あるべし。これすなわち皆如来の本部に移行しします心なり。これを大経には要所主上功徳成就統計りさればむしらい作りと作る悪語煩悩を残るところもなく眼力不思議をもって証明する言われがゆえに正常十二体の位に実となりこれによって煩悩を断絶して涅槃のと言えるはこの心なり。この義は東流地図の初段なるものなり。他流の人に対して格のごとく沙汰あるべからざる心なり。よくよく心べきものなり。あなかしこ、あなかしこ。Chapter on the attainment of Shinjin, true entrusting. To awaken to true entrusting, Shinjin, means to accept, to understand the essence of the 18th vow. To accept this vow means to understand the appearance of Namu Amida Butsu. The reason is that Namu expresses the devotee's single-minded trust which is the very result of Amida's transferring the primal vow to the devotee. This is, in essence, the very meaning of Amida Tathagata's initiating the transference of merits to unenlightened beings like ourselves. This act is explained in a larger sutra as, in quotes, transferring the merits to sentient beings to enable them to meet the conditions for spiritual rebirth, end of quote. Therefore, all evil karma accumulated from the infinite fast will be completely absorbed in the inconceivable power of the vow, establishing us within the ranks of the non-retrogressive and truly assured. This is what is meant by the attainment of nirvana without the removal of blind attachments. With reverence, I remain. Namu, AMIDA-SEN. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our live stream. And to all the mothers out there, Happy Mother's Day. How does Buddhism look at Mother's Day? We have a member out there who always tells me or reminds me that, you know, Mother's Day reminds me of Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is the Chinese pronunciation for Kanno. And in this chant that we did, the Junirai, of the 12 iterations of Amida Buddha, here, Nagarjuna, the great sage Nagarjuna, says, within the crown of Kannon sits the image of Amida Buddha. So in the Jodo Shinshu tradition, or in the Pure Land tradition, quite often Kannon or Kuan Yin is referred to as a manifestation of the wondrous compassion that the Buddha has for all beings. And so quite often in the Jodo tradition, certain poems, or for that matter, poems when referring to the great compassion of Amida Buddha, refers to, uses the metaphor of mothers. And today I wanted to share a story that was referred to me or shared with me by one of the great teachers in Japan. And he came to Hawaii several years ago to do a lecture. And there, he talked about unconditional love. And if mothers represent unconditional love, like Kuan Yin or Kannon, then perhaps we can understand this story. He was invited to speak as a lecturer up at Harvard several years back. And he was asked to do a public lecture. So apparently many people have gathered in the hall. And he was there delivering a message. And unlike Japan, where the students just sit there and take in whatever the teacher says, in America we're accustomed to what is known as Q&A, or question and answers. So at the end of the lecture, someone said, Reverend, can we have Q&A? And he wasn't sure what that meant, but he said, okay. And so he realized that in America, students like to have clarification of whatever one says through questions and the answer or response from the teacher. He answered maybe, for him was quite unusual, I guess, because as I mentioned earlier, in Japan or in the Asian world, everyone just takes in the teacher's words. But there was one question that he reminded us of, which kind of took him by surprise. And he said, and the question was, you know, Reverend, you talk about unconditional love. Is there such a thing as unconditional love? Can you show me, or you explain to me? And I guess he was perplexed as to how to answer, I guess, and he was wondering what to say. I guess he took a while to think about it. But then he noticed that the person who asked that question was a mother. And in her breast was a child who was suckling nourishment from the mother. Then he looked at that and says, if you really want to know if there's such a thing as unconditional love, why don't you ask your child? Why don't you ask your child? I guess what he was referring to is that the child has unconditionally taken refuge in the mother and realizes that the mother is that which sustains the child's life. So unconditionally, again, he said that was the proof. And I think there are many ways. Maybe this is one way, and of course it can, of course, be somewhat controversial. However, that was the teacher's way of explaining unconditional love. And I think each and every one of us, we all have or had a mother. Unfortunately, not all situations are the best, but we all had a mother, or else we wouldn't be here. So we need to say, first of all, thank you to the person who gave us life. And yes, we go through many ups and downs in life, and quite often we'll say, what good is life anyway, when we encounter so many ups and downs. However, to be born and receive human life is indeed a privilege. And it took many countless causes and conditions, many lifetimes perhaps, to achieve this rare opportunity to receive life. So again, Buddhism is a teaching of making us understand not only the importance of life, but as I've mentioned many times, the responsibility that each and every one of us has as we go through life. And I'm sure we all have some influence by this person called Mother, and so I'd like to reflect upon that. As I reflect upon this condition that we're going through now, it brings back memories of my mother. My mother passed away about 35 years ago, but even then, somehow, I feel as if my mother is talking to me, and more so now. Way back then, in the maybe late 50s and maybe 60s, as some of you may remember, there was also an illness going around. It was called tuberculosis or TB. And our family comes from generations of merchants. And so my mother, when she married my father, who was the eldest son, realized that as the head of the house, as a woman, she was responsible for taking care of the family business as well. So next to my father, they would plan their day, and my mom would execute all the things that were necessary to make the business successful. It was a successful business. She worked very hard. And I can still remember as a child, she woke up every morning very early. She made sure everybody had breakfast. She made sure that everybody had lunch as well. And then she went to work. And I remember coming back from school, and she was at one of our businesses, and we had to wait until Mom finished work. The earliest may have been 5 o'clock, but normally it was about 7 o'clock or sometimes even 8 o'clock. During which time we were all told or instructed by Mom to help the business by washing pots and pans or doing this or even sweeping the place. So I still remember that. Mom was quite strict. And I remember, I guess in Japanese, I would refer to be as called a warubozo or yancha, or someone who was very mischievous, and I tend to still be that way, somewhat independent in my thinking. Mom knew that, and to somehow bring me down, if I did something wrong, I guess the most thing that I remember the most, but of course we got spanking in those days, not like today. But to teach me some sense of humility, she would say, go pick a branch. And with the branch, I got spanking. But Mom wasn't always that way. She was always a loving person, although she was kind of quiet. But the story that reminds me of my mother and the present situation now, as I mentioned at that time, there was something called tuberculosis. And tuberculosis at that time, because basically there was no medicine or cure, it was either you passed away, which was very common, like now, or miraculously you would survive. My mom, or I missed my mother because she was in the hospital for at least 2 years. And at first we were not able to even see her, but we would sometimes stand outside in the yard of the hospital, and she was maybe on the 8th or even 10th floor, depending on her situation, and from there we'd just wave. Things got a little better, and she got a little bit more, more strength. Then quite often we're able to speak on the phone. But what I remember about my mom was that because we're a business family, she would say, you need to work hard. And she set an example as to how hard we should be working. As I mentioned earlier, she woke up early, and her day didn't finish until all the books were finished in the evening. You need to work hard. You need to work hard for the prosperity of whatever is to get a better tomorrow. After my mom got tuberculosis, and she always says, it is a miracle that I'm still alive today. And whenever anybody got ill or situation got terrible, especially when it pertained to health, her voice or her tone of voice would change. You need to take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, no matter how hard you work, you won't be able to rebuild. You wouldn't be able to come back. So as I think about what's going now, and just this morning too, as I was looking at, reading the news on my cell phone, it says that there is an increase of the states that have opened up. And so is it telling us. I think we all have choices. I'm not here to say whether it's right or not right, but we all have choices. And the point is that, although yes, I believe the economy is having a hard time, and for that reason I cannot say you should or you shouldn't, but we all have choices. And what is our choice? What is my choice? I've already determined what my choice is. And although sometimes I feel as if I'm doing nothing to help the greater movement, somebody said, by just staying indoors and following the rules or guidelines, aren't you helping out? Each and every one of us has a great obligation to life. Each and every one of us is a very dynamic piece in what is known as life itself. So as we reflect upon this Mother's Day, it's just one story, but I wanted you to think about perhaps what you would like to do. Because of my mom, I made a decision. Because of my mom, I want to make sure that we have a better tomorrow for everyone. And this is what Nagarjuna was trying to say in this chant, the Junirai. If it is true that mothers represent Buddhas, then all of us was influenced by a Buddha. However, as I mentioned earlier, some of us have happy stories and some of us don't. But regardless. And these 12 adorations of Amida Buddha tell us, or our guidelines, as to what a mother represents. So I tend to use mother is not Buddha, but mother is Buddha-like, because nobody is perfect. And therefore, as hard as my mother tried, I appreciate. And even now, as I think about my mom on this Mother's Day, I can kind of hear her say what we should be doing now, what we should be contemplating now. The love of a mother has no barrier, it has no ends, like the love of the Buddha. It goes on and on and on. And so quite often they would use, again, the metaphor that the Buddha is like a father, the Buddha is like a mother. It depends upon the situation, perhaps, a male figure, a female figure, but regardless, Mom still lives within each and every one of us to say how not only how much she cares, but she wants each and every one of us to have a better tomorrow. So reflecting upon my mom and the teachings of the Buddha, and perhaps how we can relate to the Buddha's vows through that image that we call mom, we come today to say thank you to all moms, past, present, and future. Not the figure necessarily, but the love that each one represents. How grateful we are. So we connect with all moms, we put our hands together in Gassho, and through the calling of the Buddha's name, again, connect with all moms, past, present, and future. Namu AMIDA-SEN-RYŌ-ZOKU-SON, Namu AMIDA-SEN-RYŌ-ZOKU-SON, Namu AMIDA-SEN-RYŌ-ZOKU-SON. We'd like to close today's formal part of the ceremony by the singing of Nembutsu. Namu AMIDA, Namu AMIDA, Namu AMIDA, out, man out, man out, man out. Naman out, man out.
Well, that was wonderful. Thank you, Reverend Earl. Thank you for everybody for joining us for today's service. If you came in late, that is okay. You may watch it replayed in full on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/New York Buddhist Church. And if you have any questions for Reverend Earl, please go to the New York Buddhist Church's website, newyorkbuddhistchurch.org, and click on Contact Us. And your questions will be forwarded to Reverend Earl, and he may even answer live during our next service. You may also read Reverend Earl's weekly messages there. We have implemented online donations on our website. We greatly appreciate your dana donations. You may also download our yearly membership form from our website. New York Buddhist Church is a nonprofit that relies on donations to operate on an ongoing basis and provide ongoing support for our mission of sharing the Buddha Dharma and the teachings of Shinran Shonin. Thank you. Please support us. Now go find Mom, give her a call, tell her that you love her. Thank you. Namu. AMIDA Butsu. What time are we doing the